Hey guys, we're going to start off with a top-down overview of the 93 gallon. As you can see, a lot of things have been doing very well. Some of the, like the rainbow loom, its tips have kind of lost its pink. I'm not sure what's going on there. And I've trimmed this guy back so that his branches were just getting out of hand. So the tank's definitely less crowded because I've moved a lot of the LPS into the 75 gallon. One of the things I've noticed ever since adding more fish, I've been feeding the tank a bit more, and I did notice more coloration on a lot of the pieces. This red Diablo, the colors have kind of actually faded back a little bit. But this Rainbow Monty is looking great. I really noticed it on this Bali shortcake. So before, for the longest time, this Bali shortcake, he showed some color and then he'd kind of bleach out. And within the last couple months, I did notice, his coloration is coming back and like he looks really good right now. So there are two possibilities. One is the increase in nutrients, because at the same time of adding the fish, I also stopped the protein skimmer, and I've actually moved the protein skimmer to the 75 gallon. So increase in nutrients. The second possibility is, without the skimming, the water is not as clear, and therefore the coral will experience less PAR. So it could be, in addition to that, a decrease in the amount of PAR that the coral is getting. So this is the bonsai. I'm not getting the purple coloration I see online, but it has a lot of polyps. There's Paloensis, and that's my Yagami tort. This has got some nice coloration. Again, I'm not sure if it's, it's very possible that the water is just not as clear, and these guys aren't getting the PAR because he's closer to the coloration I want him to have. And that coloration was experienced by one of the frags, that frag, when he was getting less light. So here's my frag rack. One of the things I did, in addition to moving a lot of the LPS out, is I have made some frags. I had to trim back some pieces. Specifically, the Setosa was shading certain coral. I made some frags of some of, the pink lemonade and red Diablo, as they are kind of getting close to each other. And then I moved the Sunset encrusting Monty out from where it used to be because it was going to get killed by the acros. But it's never done well in my tank, except after I moved it, it's actually doing great. So I think I just had it under too much light. Other than that, everyone else has been doing well. Zoas have been hit or miss. After adding the fish, I've been feeding the tank much more frozen food. much more often in terms of pellet food. And zoas I thought were going to melt away actually came back. So that made me think that the tank actually had too few nutrients. To compensate for adding more food, I have increased the photo period for my macroalgae in the sump. Look at that, strawberry shortcake. So a lot of the coloration could be captured by the camera before, but I couldn't really see it with my eyes. Oh, and here, this denim on denim. Okay, so you can see this rainbow millie. Its loss is pink, and I don't know what's going on, but behind it, I have I think it's sold to me as radioactive SPS acro. It's been browned out for forever. After adding the fish, after feeding more, suddenly, I believe that's why the yellow's back. And this guy, denim on denim, you know, when you hear denim, you think, yeah, probably a greenish blue, which it was, but now I'm seeing, with my naked eye, I'm seeing a lot of pinks come out. And you can kind of see on the edges, it's more pink as well as on the top. So instead of, it used to look gray before, now it's much pinker. This millie that used to be a really dull, pinkish, light red color, he's become brighter, and I can really notice the skin color a lot more. So overall, I'm happy with where the tank is at. Here's the Oregon Tort. A lot of Pineapple Express zoas. Now these guys grow really fast. And then here's I believe Armor of God, but it could be any type of zoa. Like, a lot of them look very similar. Setosa. So the tank overall, I'm happier with it. That it's not as crowded. I still have to do more trimming, and I think I have to make some decisions. Specifically, I mean, this guy's grown to a point where I don't know what to do with him. I like growth, but it's kind of at a point where I wonder if I should replace him. Same thing with this Monty, although this Monty is looking much better. I'm wondering if maybe I could put one of my acros that I've always wanted in that spot. Okay, so I'm gonna go to a side view, and we'll be right back. So here's a shot of the Frag rack. I just made it out of egg crate, and it's actually really simple to do and really quick. You know, I'm not sure whether I'm gonna leave this FOV here. One of the benefits of having all the LPS in the other tank is when I'm target feeding, I only have to worry about one tank instead of two. So the last little while, every time I target feed, I'm always feeding the 75 gallon, and I haven't really bothered feeding this tank. Now, these coral are probably okay because I've seen them eat a lot of food from just fish defecating on them. However, that could be a good spot for a deep water acro, and I did pick up a couple deep waters from JNL Aquatics, which I will move over after they've been quarantined for the 45 days. Overall, no new coral in this tank. Most of my efforts have been focused on the 75 gallon, and I'm kind of ashamed to say I do have an auto feeder on this tank. It feeds the tank. It used to feed 4 times a day. I've reduced it to 3 now. But right before shooting this video, I realized from the outside it looked like there was a lot of food in it. However, yeah, it's been empty, and I think it must have been empty for maybe a while. A while in terms of maybe, I would say less than a week, because once in a while I do catch auto feeder feeding, and every other time I've always seen food coming out. Other than the color transformation in some of these coral, the zoa is looking better from the additional feeding. Not much has happened. I like I said before, I had to trim some of the coral back because they were starting to shade other pieces. I am gonna frag a few more things. Specifically, I want to get my encrusting montes onto maybe frag discs, because right now I just stuck them in a bunch of, they're really stuck onto the rock, and I can already see one of my montes, I'll show you guys here, he's already being attacked by one of the acros. So one of my favorite pieces, actually. The red Diablo is already starting to attack him, and acros will always be montes. So, well, actually I'm not sure about that, but at least encrusting montes. So this guy's already being pushed back, and the last thing I want is to lose him. So if you see that big hump, that's actually a frag plug. And I'm not sure what kind of plug it is, because it's not something that I can cut. So, in an effort to preserve these guys, at first I stuck my hand in there to yank him out, to break that frag plug off, but that's actually stuck on really well. I'm not sure if it's because of the glue, but my next attempt I'll just use clippers to kind of break him off. Now some of my other montes are also growing. I mean, the encrusting guys are growing incredibly fast, and they're really beautiful. So I'm not, when I say they're growing fast, I don't mean that in a bad way. You'll find, I'm sure you guys have found as well, that some of your coral grow much quicker than others. And in just a beginning tank, that's really nice, because you're trying to fill some space for your eyes, right? At this point in this tank's life, there are too many acros in here, and I do want to get a few more, because there are a few pieces that I've really coveted, a few classics that I've never been able to get a hold of, and I think once I get those pieces, I'm gonna just stop. No more additions in this tank or the 75-gallon. So I have, I think, between 3 and 5 pieces that I truly want. And now the sand bed has the space for it. And a lot of them are deep water acros, so there's not going to be a problem there in terms of space. And I'm really impressed with this guy, because he's, ever since I bought him, I didn't have space for him, so I stuck him on the sand bed, and lo and behold, he himself started just growing on the sand, plating out. I'm sure he's a Monty Cap. The only weird thing is, when I bought him, like, the structure right in the center, that big piece, it just looked kind of weird. But in hindsight, I believe if he's not a cap, he's probably closely related. And then here is the radioactive. So when I first got him, he was a really bright yellow. Now the color coming back is green. And maybe after the green, he'll start to become yellow again. But I mean, just the fact that he's actually getting color again is pretty amazing to me. And yeah, sorry, we're losing focus. Well, I guess we're focusing on the fish, which is fine. All the fish are still doing fine. I did lose another chromis, so I went away for like 4 or 5 days, and when it came back, I noticed there were only 3 instead of 4. So, I mean, he must have died. I'm not sure. And then the cleanup crew must have cleaned him up. Yeah, unfortunately, I do wish that I had bought more of them instead of just the 5. Maybe in the future. I still have 4 Leertilanthius. They all look like they're doing pretty good. The biggest one, so the most dominant one, yeah, he chases them. He also likes to chase the Dispar Anthius, which is probably a male. But overall, when I look at the Anthiuses, their body shape suggests that they are getting enough to eat, which I'm thankful for. The chromises are the same thing. And these Talbot Anthius, so where are they? So it's these guys with the purple. I mean, they're okay. Wait, Talbot. Talbot damsels. They are fat, and I think part of it is they're not as picky as a lot of the other fish. So, and they're always picking. So anytime food falls to the bottom, I believe out of all the fish, the Talbots are the ones that get most of the food on the bottom. So they're doing really well. They're really fat. Like really, when you see them from like a front view, I think they're almost overweight. And the tangs are still doing great. In fact, you know, I've really noticed this yellow, he does a lot of work. Surprisingly enough, he picks out a lot of algae and yeah, pretty much the coal tang's the same thing. One of the pieces of advice I would give you guys is, you know, I had let coralline and other stuff build up on 3 sides of this tank. A big part of it was out of laziness, but a big part of letting it grow was because I noticed a lot of copepods on the glass, and I really didn't want to disturb them. However, now I've run into a problem where I have a really tough algae that has managed to grow on the glass, and it's taken me a lot of effort to scrape it off. So FYI for you guys, in the future you may want to make sure that you are keeping the sides of your tank as clean as you can for the ones that you do want to keep clean. I'm never going to scrape the back. In fact, I do have, you see that big patch right in the middle? That's a Tyree blood red Cyphastria. So he's going to grow out. He's kind of bleached from the light, unfortunately. And I thought for the longest time, just based on the bleaching, that he would disappear. But in fact, I do notice that he's continuing to grow out, and I think that's good. And I have this Anthius, well, this damsel here. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. There's not much to update you guys on. I haven't changed anything else other than, I did move one of the power heads to the 75 gallon. I did notice maybe 2 weeks ago that one of my other power heads have failed. So I'm trying a bit of a different flow, because I notice if you look at some of my acros, the way their branches are growing, they're kind of veering away from the flow. So maybe it's a bit too much flow for them. But thanks a lot for watching. Thumbs up if you liked it, subs if you loved it. I'll see you guys next time.